and welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is another episode. What episode number is this? This is 44. Sorry, I didn't remember. Episode 44, sort of reconstructing the accident. And as you can see, Trooper Joseph Paul is on the thumbnail, and behind him is the sort of reconstructing of the accident. So if you've been watching the trial, the Karen Reed trial, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, you will notice that the prosecutor constantly adds sort of what, if any, to his questions. And so that's why a little homage to Lolly there with the title of sort of reconstructing the accident. So in today's video, we are going to go over Trooper Paul's. I can't put those there. How about that? We're going to go over Trooper Paul's testimony. And so Trooper Joseph Paul is the expert for the. I'm just leaving it at that. The expert witness for the prosecution for the state of Massachusetts, trying to claim that John O'Keefe was hit, Boston police officer John O'Keefe was hit by Karen Reed or by a car, by an SUV. First of all, that needs to be proven that his injuries even came from an SUV in order for it to be confirmed that Karen is guilty of this crime. So this is a big deal. This is their expert witness. That's all I'm going to say about that. He's not an expert. I'm just going to put it at that. I feel bad for this guy in a way. In another way, I really don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the Commonwealth's um, witnesses. Um, Also, I apologize for the background today. It is just too hot to go and record upstairs in my bedroom. So it's going to be down here where it's a little cooler. And sorry about the ugly background. Anyways, so Trooper Joseph Paul, he's their collision reconstructionist. So he is going to walk us through how he reconstructed this incident, although that's questionable. So we're gonna listen to what he has to say. He's got a lot to say. He's on the stand for 2 days, over the span of 2 days. And let's begin. First of all, I always like to give my clips a name or a title just kind of be fun and cheeky about it. So clip one is going to be introducing Trooper Joseph Paul. And most of these clips are short, but we got a lot to get through, so I'm going to try to get through it as fast as I can. With that said, I'm on the wrong day, aren't I? Yes, I am. All right, here we go.
Good morning.
Hey, Stephanie.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for sure?
Trooper Joe Paul, that's P-A-U-L.
And how are you employed, sir?
I am currently employed with the Massachusetts State Police.
And how long have you been a trooper with the state police?
I have been a trooper for approximately 8.5 years.
And,
12.5 years. I apologize.
And where is it that you're currently assigned within the state police?
I am currently assigned to our Collision Analysis and Reconstruction section, otherwise known as CARS, our recon.
And how long have you had that assignment to the reconstruction of cars?
That one's for about 8.5 years.
And with respect to your assignment to that unit, prior to beginning with that unit, let me ask you this first. As far as the cars unit is concerned, about how is that sort of divided up as far as is there certain regions that you would specifically cover?
Correct. We have four separate regions across the states. We have Southeast, the Northeast, Central, and the Western.
And which of those are you assigned?
I am assigned to the Southeast.
And geographically, how much territory are we talking about that the Southeast covers?
Anywhere from Boston down to the Cape, Marks, Nantucket, anywhere southeastern part of Massachusetts.
And currently, how many troopers are assigned to this specialized reconstruction within your Southeast region?
Within our Southeast region, we have, I believe we have 9 now.
Okay. So that's Trooper Paul. We're gonna We're going to fast forward here to 318. He's going to talk about, so he took some pictures, I guess, at the crime scene. He did a drone overview of the crime scene, so we're going to hear him talk a little bit about that. I call this clip, "And I used a drone."
34 Fairview Road will be on the left-hand side of the road. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And with regard to the width of the lanes, or what, if any, measurements did you take in regard to the lanes or the roadway itself?
Yeah, each travel lane was approximately 12 feet, and the overall width was approximately 27 feet.
Now, as far as measurements being conducted with regard to the scene, what, if anything, did you use or employ to make those measurements, or what, if any, devices?
Yes, I mapped the scene with a Leica GNSS GPS total station, and also used a drone.
That's a UAS, is that correct?
Correct.
The drone, I mean?
Yes.
And with regard to each of those, as far as the GPS mapping and the drone, have you received any sort of specialized training in regard to employment of each of those tools?
Yes, I have been certified to use the Leica, and I've also have a Part 107 license for the drone.
Now, as far as starting with the Leica or the GPS, if you could explain to the jury sort of what that is and how you use that device in order to, as you termed it, map the scene.
Yes, it's essentially what surveyors would use to make roadways. It uses satellites and GPS data plus cell phone data to make marks on the roadway, or actually not marks, but just mark points in the roadway that are within millimeters of the device.
And with regard to the drone device, sir, how does that? Can you explain to the jury sort of how that works and how that's used?
Yeah, so the drone, and we fly the drone around the area. We set it to set up a grid pattern to fly around the scene. And while it's flying this grid pattern, it takes a series of photographs, and these photographs are also GPS marked. Once we get all the photographs in, we throw it into a program, and the program will essentially stitch it all together. And then once we get that picture, we throw it into a diagramming system.
And that diagramming system, have you also received training in regard to utilization of that diagramming system?
Yes, I have.
And the one that you're currently using within the car's unit, what is that diagramming system or software called?
It's IMS 360.
And you want to approach the witness?
Yes.
All right, we'll skip through this.
Print out through the program.
And the last one is the drone image, is that correct?
Image.
Okay, so he does a bunch of drone images. They are all the same, but they enter them all into.
Let me ask it this way.
He has like 3 different versions of it. Each one is like, or one is more zoomed in than the other, and I don't know why they made us sit through all 3 of them to get admitted into evidence.
As far as
So I'll skip
elevation,
through
reclining
that.
the roadway, what, if any, measurements did you take in regard to that?
Yeah, so we took the elevation and roadway measurements, or the elevation for the roadway.
And where in relation to the residents at 34 Fairview did you take that? Sort of the entire street or just in the general area of that specific address?
In the general area of that specific address.
And from your measurements, as far as, well, let me ask you this. How is a measurement regarding to elevation or incline? What kind of tool do you use for that?
We have a level, the digital level, that we'll place on the roadway, and we'll get a measurement.
So this is direct examination, by the way. I forgot to point that out. This is direct examination by the prosecutor or the ADA, he's the assistant ADA, Adam Lawley. He's the one asking the questions. I do have it sped up to 1.5 speed. If you guys find that is too fast, Trooper Paul does talk a little fast. Maybe I should slow him down. I don't know, since it's gonna take us forever to get through this video. I like to watch them fast.
From that.
Now, with regard to the measurements that you took of the elevation or the incline in the roadway, anything, or what, if anything, of significance did you find from that?
So this roadway had approximately plus or minus 1 to 2 degrees.
So nothing significant, is that fair to say?
Nothing significant, yes.
Which I find to be odd because there is actually a curve in the road, which I skipped. Oh, here it is. I lost it. There. So this is a picture that they took of the road. And you can actually see, so this is the lawn right here for 34 Fairview Road is where my pointer is circling. These are the bushes, and this is the area where John was actually found, right about here. But as you can see, the road doesn't go straight back. There's a curve to the road, if you can see the lines. So keep that in mind because we're going to come back to that because we're going to watch Trooper Paul's reconstruction of the accident of this incident, and then we're going to actually watch at the very end. I've got a better recreation of it or reconstruction of it. So don't go anywhere because we're gonna watch a lot. We're gonna get into this. So Trooper Paul admits all these images. This is the most zoomed in. You can see he says the pedestrian's final resting spot is about, oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong arrow. It's about here. This is the flagpole. This is the fire hydrant, and then there's red and clear and red plastic. Again, the pedestrian shoe is right here, and if you're confused, you're not the only one. And there's a glass cup that was found right next to John's body. His hat, um, what else? His hat and his cell phone, those aren't even mapped. So where were those? And there were 47 pieces of tail light, not 4. Well, 3 that they have here. Anyways. So this is, yeah, we don't need to watch the rest of that clip. We'll just move on to the next clip, which is we're going to talk about key cycles. That's the title of this one. This gets kind of confusing. Basically, he talks about a key cycle, which is any kind of triggering event where the key is used or whatever. I don't know. He's going to talk about it.
Correct.
And can you explain to the jury sort of what a key cycle is and what are the different things that could trigger a key cycle?
Key cycle is essentially, so it's from the ignition cycle. Well, let's take a step. Sorry. So a key cycle is essentially from when the vehicle's off, it's pressed on. It doesn't necessarily need to be running or turned on. It just needs to be turned on and then off again, and that'd be one key cycle.
Okay, so on and off, I guess, is a key cycle, but that doesn't make sense. So on should be a cycle, right? No, I guess between the on and off, he didn't even explain it well. Oh, boy.
Now, with relation to your analysis in regard to the vehicle control history, what, if any, role did the key cycle numbers, or what kind of role did that play in your analysis?
It shows me where how far away they were from each other. The key cycles were.
And how far away in what terms, sir?
So when I turned the vehicle on, when I did my testing, it shows me what key cycle was that I was on when I did those testings, and then the odometer mileage in relationship to that.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Sir, I'm showing you a document. Just ask you to look at that. Look up when you finish.
Yeah.
And do you recognize that, sir?
I do.
And what do you recognize that to be?
That is the table from the vehicle control history from my report.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Commonwealth to seek to introduce in the minutes and exhibit.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
I was trying to find a better definition of a key cycle, but I couldn't find one. Sorry.
The 591.
Your Honor, may I have a moment and then return it to the witness?
Yes.
Permission, if I could ask to publish this to the jury.
Okay, so
Dr.
this.
Ball, what's up on the screen is that the exhibit that you have before you.
Hold on one second. All right, so they're going to start talking about these key cycles. I put on the screen for you an image. This is the image that he's got. I'm going to let it play and maybe keep this up just so you guys can follow along. But if you're looking at the screen, everything in that red arrow on the on the right side. Sorry, it's on the right side. All of those are supposedly when the car was in Trooper Paul's possession. So anything after that point was their key cycles. So the instances before that, those are supposedly Karen's key cycles. So he's going to explain how he worked backwards to use these key cycles to determine where there was some kind of triggering event. This is all off of the report from her system on her car, her SUV, her Lexus like fancy car has all the whistles and bells, and so it has all the computer generated mileage, and that's what he's going off of too is mileage. Because if you see on the second to the last column, it's the odometer, it's the miles. So he's going by mileage for these triggering events, which is probably the wrong way to go about it too. But I'll let it play while you can just look at the screen for a little bit with the image.
Yes, it is.
Now, if you could, using the laser pointer before you, just direct the jury's attention to what we're looking at in this exhibit and what type of information, where it's located within this exhibit.
Okay, so this is the vehicle control history.
See.
Every single point here, this is where the triggers are. This is the labels for each trigger. Odometer mileage is on this label here. These are the elapsed time
So elapsed
and key cycle.
elapsed time, key cycle, trigger, and then the mileage. So, all right. I hope that helps.
I have noted through arrows here, these were when the vehicle was with us, and a lot of this is related to my testing with the vehicle. And these right before that were the triggers that were prior to those testings.
Now, from the within this table, sir, there are two triggers reported at odometer mile 12,629.
Yes.
And what's the key cycle associated with 12,629?
1,162.
Now, these triggers that are contained as far as the 12,629, that's prior to the.
I'm having trouble hearing you back there. Okay, you have to either come closer and speak up even louder, Mr. Malley.
Speak louder.
There's no microphone near you. That's the problem for the court reporter.
Yeah, we can't hear you at home either.
My issue is, Your Honor, there's no light over here.
All right, so let's turn the light on and then you can ask your question, then we'll turn the light right back off, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. My apologies. So that odometer mile, as far as two triggering events, at 12,629, correct?
Yes.
And that occurs prior to the 12,665, 12,666 during the course of your braking and acceleration test, correct?
Correct.
And the mileage difference between those two, did you do that math?
Yes.
What was the mileage difference between the two?
36.
And how many key cycles were different between your testing and that odometer reading of 12,629?
2 key cycles.
Now, as far as the, what if any information did you have and where did you get it in relation to the defendant's vehicle's path of travel prior to those odometer readings that you noted when you did your braking test?
I was told that where she traveled afterwards or prior to that. I was noted their locations, and
So we noted their locations, and he chose separate routes that she could have taken, and he figured that was her mileage based on possible routes she could have taken that night.
used those locations through Google to get a mileage for them.
Okay, we're going to skip to the next clip, which I call the quote Reconstruction. This is, where is this? 605. Oh, he does all these other reports too, and these are like triggering events that he says had something to do with it, and somewhere along the line she like accelerates really fast and the pedal, I don't know. He comes up to some conclusion which is really dumb. I can't even reiterate what he says because he changed his testimony so many times. I don't even know half of what he did say. So, all right. Anyways, let's skip ahead to the Reconstruction clip 605. Where are you? All right, so this is their Reconstruction.
Well, with respect to, just for orientation purposes, if you could explain to the jury sort of where we are in relation to the Canton Police Department and where it was that you conducted these tests.
Yeah. So this is a view from the back of the Canton Police Department. So as you look at the Canton Police Department, we'd be on the left side of the Canton Police Department.
So they are in a police department parking lot, reconstructing the accident. And I say reconstructing like this, air quotes, because it's not a reconstruction. Basically, he's just testing the mechanics on the car to see if they're in proper working order. And that's all he did. But you'll see. Here we go.
And as far as the vehicle in question, if you could, using a laser pointer, just direct your attention to where that is and sort of where it's going to.
So here's their car right now.
The vehicle is right here.
Ms. Gilman, if you could press play.
He's going backwards very slowly. Just make sure that everything's working. The camera works. The lights work, except for the tail light that they took out. You know, Karen is still paying for this car. And it's been in possession of police for 2 years. She only had a few thousand miles on it. Like, she didn't have it that long, clearly. And she's still making payments on it because otherwise, what are you going to do? I mean, ruin her credit and all that if she didn't pay. Anyway, so he goes back up front. He's got a police car marked up there, marking where he's stopping, and he comes backwards real fast for a second or two, and then
Paul, during these testing that you were conducting here with the acceleration, reverse braking, all of those, the highest speed that you recorded during the course of that testing was 30 miles an hour. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the highest speed that was contained within that VCH data for the second or the B of those two data sets, what was the highest miles per hour there?
24.
Now, with respect to the braking in this vehicle, what, if anything, was this vehicle equipped with?
Had ABS brakes, anti-lock brake system.
for some reason he thinks at some point when she accelerated to 24 miles per hour that was her gunning it towards John O'Keefe. But there's no indication to even tell us that she was going backwards during the 24 miles an hour.
With relation to anti-lock brake system or ABS, what, if any, relationship does that have with regard to braking and what is then visible on the pavement?
It doesn't leave visible tire marks.
And why is that, sir?
Due to when the brakes, as the brake is about to lock up, it transfers over to another tire, so it kind of rotates between tires, so the tires never fully lock up and slide across the pavement.
Now, in relation to ABS not leaving marks on the pavement, what, if any, relationship does that have as far as the sound difference between ABS brakes and non-ABS brakes?
Yeah, the sound would be different because you would hear a car sliding across the pavement as opposed to just hard braking and engine slowing down.
As far as sort of screeching of braking and tire coming to a brake, what would you expect to hear with respect to ABS braking?
There would be no screeching of the tires.
And Ms. Yeoman, if you could press play from here.
No screeching if it is ABS braking systems, but I don't think that's true. But that's what Trooper Paul just testified to. All right, what are they doing? Oh, woo! Okay, testing in progress. And he doesn't even look like he's going that fast. He didn't accelerate that much. I also want to note that he's doing this in a controlled environment where he's going straight back. The road at 34 Fairview, as I pointed out, curves, and there's no ice and snow. It's not snowing. It's not dark out. So this really is not a reconstruction. That's why I said sort of. So he's basically just driving back and forth in the Canton parking lot and calling this a reconstruction of the accident. They didn't go to 34 Fairview Road. They didn't do anything like in the dark or in the snow. Obviously, this parking lot has been plowed. There's no visible snow on the ground other than what's been piled up and already cleared. So accelerating and braking on this pavement, which may be different than a road,
Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish
but
the other video of the interior of the vehicle?
you know
Yes.
what I'm saying? Like the way her tires react on that parking lot, which may be paved with something completely different than the road in 34 Fairview Road, on Road 34 Fairview Road, it might have had a different consistency or, might have been not as smoothly finished or whatever. So there's tons of different reasons why this is not a reconstruction of the accident because they did not do a reconstruction. They didn't replicate any of the circumstances for the incident. So in that regard, it's really not a reconstruction. So that's what I'm going to say about that.
Ms. Cameron, if you could just pause it briefly. Again, Trooper Paul, with reference to what's up on screen, if you could just using the laser pointer direct the jury's attention to the screen in the center of the dashboard and just as far as what different parts of the screen are visible here.
So right here is the reverse camera, 360 camera.
And as far as this particular portion of the interior of the vehicle, are we looking at what was done with regard to acceleration or braking tests, or are we looking at the visibility now?
This is the visibility analysis.
So she had a rear view camera and also a 360 camera. That's pretty cool. So basically, in one of their experiments, if you watch the Sally Port videos in the previous videos, they had a kind of like a punching, boxing mannequin, and they used that mannequin to stand behind, to be standing in the driveway there or parking lot, and they had it to see if the sensors were still working. So they put him in the back to act as if he was John, and to see if the car would alert to the sensors alerting to something being there, and everything was in working order as far as they could tell. So they're saying it was intentional based on that, I guess. I don't know, but that's where they're going with that. So the next clip of the day is Lolly tries to pull a fast one. And where does this one start? Hold on. Oh, hold on. All right, so 6:14, 45, 48. So this is the first day he's on the stand, and this is the very end of the day, and they send the jury home. Judge Canoni sends the jury home, and then they do a voir dire of this witness, and we're going to see he has uh, a new conclusion, a new opinion, a new expert opinion on the um, the video, the ring camera footage video of John from John's house when Karen's pulling out, and when she hits his vehicle. He has a new expert opinion on that. What that was never disclosed to the defense. So it gets a little heated when Alan Jackson feels like Adam Lally is trying to pull a fast one, which I believe he was. So this expert's opinion is supposed to be the reconstruction of the accident. So he was never asked to opine on the backing out when Karen backed out of John's driveway and backed into his car. He was never asked to provide an opinion on that video. We'll say it like that. So he was never asked to provide an opinion on that video, and then out of nowhere he says, "Oh, I can do that." So let's see.
Shows where the This is just backed up to on the bottom here.
And Ms. Gilman, for the record, this is about 34 seconds in. If you could press play from here.
I thought I was at the right spot.
Over the course of your investigation, over the course of this case, did you become aware of ring videos from Mr. O'Keefe's residence at 1
Here we
Meadows
go.
Avenue?
Yes.
And specifically, have you had occasion to see a video depicting the defendant backing out of the garage as snow was coming down?
Yes.
I'm going to allow it.
Yeah.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could publish to the jury with the witness on the stand, Exhibit 6, video number 153.
Objection may be approached.
Yes.
All right, so they have a sidebar. Is this where I skip it? I don't remember. Yeah, okay, so it's 6:26. This is Paul, John O'Keefe's brother.
Mr. Jackson's going to ask you some questions. You'll be shown a video.
Okay.
All right, so this is the jury has been sent home. This is the voir dire of this witness based on he wants to give an opinion now on this video that he saw on court TV. Oh yeah, that's the first time he saw it.
All right, Mr. Lally.
Now, Trooper Paul, as I was asking you before, with respect to have you had occasion to see a ring video from Mr. O'Keefe's house at 1 Meadows Avenue depicting the defendant or the defendant's vehicle backing out of a garage while snow was falling?
Yes.
Now, in addition to that, as you've already testified to, you made observations of the defendant's vehicle in the Canton Police Department garage on February 1st. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, may we play the video at this time?
Yes.
Your Honor, to save time, I'll stipulate to the video.
I want to see it for purposes of this voir dire. And in fact, I'd like to see the version that the defendants have with the focusing in on the tire.
Understood.
Bev is so
Both. Go ahead,
grumpy.
Ms. Gilman. You show yours, and then I'm going to ask the defense.
Like she's just mad that she's there in the first place. Like she's sighing all the time into the mic. She's so rude and disrespectful to Alan Jackson. And I think it's just showing what kind of a person she is. She can't even have decorum in her own courtroom. Anyways, so yeah, where were we? I don't know. I got mad at Bev, and that's where I've been mad at Bev for quite some time. Even in the pretrial hearings, I did not like her, thought she was very biased, and it just really shows. And we're gonna get a look at that too. I'll do an episode on the voir dire of the experts for the defense that Adam Lawley wanted so badly, and he barely even utilized it. So we'll talk about that in another video, and you'll see what an expert witness really looks like. It's not like this guy.
153. Now, Trooper, from your observations from this video, at some point, this vehicle either comes close or makes contact with Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in addition to your observations of this video and your observations of the defendant's vehicle, at some point, have you also seen photographs of Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle?
Yes.
And is your understanding that those photographs of Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle were taken by State Police Crime Scene Services on February 3rd? Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, with reference to your observations in this vehicle, what I'm going to ask you is in regard to the significance that you observe, the significance of the impact between the two vehicles. In respect to Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle, what, if anything, did you observe on his vehicle at that time?
At the photos are now.
Right now.
Oh, right now. There was snow on the vehicle.
And then with respect to the contact between the
No.
defendant's vehicle and victim Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle, what, if anything, did you observe to occur with relation to the snow based on the significance of the impact between the two?
The snow doesn't move.
And Ms. Gilman, if you
The
could...
snow doesn't move. That's his reasoning. for him saying the cars didn't meet because the snow didn't move. If you
All
could
right.
tap a car,
Can I see the other video, please?
sorry, the snow didn't move. That's the reason why he is claiming that she didn't hit his car. The snow on John's car didn't move. Have you ever tapped something that had snow on it and the snow was still stuck into place? Absolutely, especially in the middle of a snowstorm. So, I don't know. I mean, it was probably cold and freezing, frozen onto the back of the car. And she obviously hits it because we see it in the defense's video. You can clearly see his car jerk back and forth. It like rocks back and forth a couple times.
Yes, I think it's on. I know it's in evidence, but I think it's on your computer.
It is harder to see it without the zoom. This is, I'll zoom in here. Now, just stare at this tire. Just watch it. Can you see it move? Let's go one more time. Right about there. The whole car goes back and forth. The whole car moves. No, it moves with the car. The whole car moves. Go back and watch it
Right.
again if you didn't see it. It's
Thank you.
definitely
Okay, could you turn the lights on, please?
Your Honor, if I could produce just two photographs that I'd like to.
Sure.
For purposes.
undeniable that it moves. I have more on this. He wants to get in photos of John's car. We don't need to see that. He actually like points to the bumper part of the car, which he says would where the damage would be, but her taillight is way above that area. So, I mean, the taillight and his car should meet, closer to his taillight area. Maybe she hit it like on the corner somewhere. But here's the thing. He never measured. He never did any of the measuring and put the cars together and all that. He never did that. So we don't know where it would have hit, but he's saying that it would have hit this bottom portion, which is not true. It's just not.
Use vehicle.
Yes, it is.
Now, as far as your observations of these photographs, what, if any, damage did you observe to Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle in either the last exhibit or this exhibit itself?
There was no damage.
No
Now,
damage.
As far as the,
So that's what he's going by because there was no damage on the bumper here, which is where he thinks it would have hit. Then the cars didn't hit, even though they would have hit higher than this portion, higher than the bumper.
impact, let me ask, as far as the damage that you observed to the taillight area of the defendant's vehicle, what, if any, opinion do you have as to the amount of force necessary in order to cause that damage?
Objection.
We need a foundation on this.
So, Trooper, over the course of your, how many crashes have you investigated over your time with the cars unit?
I've been primary on 196 crashes.
And I know I'd asked you before about pedestrian crashes. Fair to say most of the remainder, if not all the remainder, involves vehicles colliding with other vehicles.
Correct.
Now, with respect
196 crashes, and not all of them have been vehicle to vehicle or vehicle to, vehicle to vehicle. So some of them, he's only dealt with some that have been pedestrian.
to that experience in relation to vehicle crashes, what, if any, training or knowledge do you have in regard to sort of physical forces of vehicles in a collision sequence and what kind of damage you would anticipate?
So obviously, the higher the speed, the more damage. The lower speed, the less damage.
And what, if any, from the
I read somewhere too, and I don't know where that statistic went, but it was something like people get hit. Sorry, our air fresheners go off, and I forgot to turn them off because I'm down here. there was a statistic about people getting hit under 25 miles per hour, and their chance of survival is like extremely high. It's as the speed goes up, the rate of potentially dying is way higher. Obviously, like once you get to 50 miles per hour or so, like it's a pretty significant rate at which people will probably lose their lives. However, going 24 miles an hour, you probably won't. You probably won't. And I still haven't been proven. It's still to me has not been proven that Karen was going 24 in reverse. So it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Observation that you made in that video and the observations that you made of the defense vehicle. What you observed in the video, was that consistent with the damage that you observed to the defense vehicle?
Objection.
So I'm going to allow this for voir dire. I just need to hear this information.
Understood, Your Honor. Thank you.
Again, this is not for the jury, it's for the judge to hear. So she's like, I want to hear it.
It is not consistent with the tail light in this collision.
And why not?
For one thing, the collision, the tail light is, what I say, 42 to 50 inches off the ground. So that vehicle would have to have damage 42 to 50 inches off the ground, because they would have to contact each other in the same distance from the ground, and there's no damage to that vehicle. So if the taillight breaks, it should leave some sort of scratching, maybe a dent, something on some sort of damage to that vehicle should have occurred.
Maybe not.
And with respect to, I think you just answered it. So as far as Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle, what kind of damage would you expect from an impact significant enough to break the plastic on the taillight of the defense vehicle?
It would be probably higher speed than what we saw.
For purposes of the voir dire, I need to hear all of this, Mr. Jackson. Go ahead.
A higher speed than what we probably would saw in there. If it's not, it was minimal. Maybe it would crack a tail light or something like that, but it wouldn't. I mean, the damage is different. And also, you know, we have a bumper that's also in the way too.
And to that point, Trooper, when it comes to a bumper, from a functional standpoint, what is a bumper and what does it do with respect to a vehicle and a collision sequence?
The bumper is, you know, it's basically meant as another cushion to absorb the impact to another vehicle, from one vehicle to another vehicle. And it kind of sticks out to kind of also preserve whatever, you know, the tail lights and everything else and damage on top of it.
So in order, from your experience as far as responding and investigating collisions, specifically collisions between motor vehicles, the speed that you observed the defendant's vehicle traveling in that video, what, if any, relationship does that have, specifically as also as to the bumper, as to the damage that you observed to the defendant's vehicle?
So if you look at the defendant's vehicle, there is a scratch mark that is along the left side starts from her bumper around the rear. That could be consistently with his hitting his bumper. That would be around the same height level. He has a.
I just want to point out, he says height with the TH, height.
A like little ridge there on his bumper. So that bumper could have been hit that little ridge. And also the bumper in itself, and here is a different material. Hers is a little lighter, like a glossy colored paint. This is more a duller flat finish. So it might have why it would show up on her bumper more than it would show up on his bumper.
And finally, sir, in your opinion,
Because of the glossy finish or not, I don't know.
the damage to the defendant's taillight, is that something that could have occurred or could have been caused by the crash or the contact of the vehicles that you observed in that video?
Objection.
No.
So again, this is voir dire, Mr. Jackson, going in here.
No.
And again, sir, why not?
For one thing, the bumpers, you have to go push through the bumpers in order to hit the taillight against the other vehicle. And there's no damage to that, significant damage to a bumper in order to push back into the car.
And again, there was no snow on the vehicle. By that, I mean Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle that even came off the vehicle that you observed during the course of that contact between the two vehicles.
That's correct.
All they have.
I have nothing further on.
This
All
is
right, Mr. Jackson.
Did you ever put the two cars together?
this is all they have. This is their expert witness, and it's not over. So he comes back the next day and he's still under direct examination. We're only going to watch a little portion of it, and then we'll get to Cross. And don't worry, Cross is quite entertaining. We've got a lot more to go, so I'm going to shut up and get through this.
I did not.
No, you didn't, did you? You never tested whether or not the SUV would match up with the Traverse, did you?
What do you mean?
You just said, oh, look, one of them has matte finish, one of them has glossy finish, so it couldn't have happened, right?
Yep.
No, I'm confused by the question. I'm talking about the tail light. We're talking about the tail light.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the tail light? Are we talking about the bumper?
Yeah, we were talking about the taillight.
So one person at a time. You both are talking over each other.
you started talking about the bumpers.
Yes.
You said, well, one has matte finish and one has glossy finish, right?
Yes.
And you said, well, you'd expect one of them to like slide off of each other, and they could have done this and they could have done that, right?
Could have.
Not slide off each other.
You were suggesting that the two cars wouldn't match up such that the taillight could make contact with any part of the traverse. That's what you were suggesting.
I'm saying it didn't match up because there's no damage to the traverse.
You didn't test whether or not the lens, the right rear lens on the SUV, could match up to any part of the traverse, right? And make contact, physical contact with it, right?
When I see a picture of the traverse,
no?
when I see the picture
No,
of the
this
traverse,
is a voir dire. I need the information.
you
Mr.
asked me a
Jackson.
question.
Yeah,
I said when
yes or no question, Trooper.
I don't think so, but
Mr. Jackson, just for there's no jury.
He asked a yes or no question, and frickin' Beverly decides she's just going to be rude to Mr. Jackson, even though the witness is being very difficult and he's refusing to answer questions. He's not, he's acting stupid. I don't know if it's just an act or if it's more than that, but he's acting stupid at least when it comes to some of Jackson's questions, and it's very frustrating. And he's been trying, well, this is just voir dire, so it hasn't even started really yet. This is just a taste of what he's going to get the next day. Just a taste.
Here. This is for purposes of what I have to rule on. The more information I have, the better off I am in being able to rule on it.
Let me take a breath.
So this is you trying to keep the evidence out. So you want to give me the information.
Understood. Did you or did you not ever do a test where you
So
backed
rude.
the Lexus up against the Traverse?
we did not.
Did you or did you not ever do a test where you put the two cars together and measured them?
No.
Did you ever measure the taillight of the SUV, the black SUV, against any area on that Traverse?
No.
Did you ever do any force multiplier tests to determine the forces necessary to crack the SUV's convex taillight?
No.
Did you ever do any testing to determine whether or not a plastic taillight, under how much
It's not just plastic, though, it is polycarbonate, which is difficult to break. So it would be difficult to shatter. Like you would need a lot of force. You would need something hard, a harder substance than the material for it to break or to crack. Not a human. And if it had hit a human, probably would shatter the human's bones before it would shatter the taillight, is what I'm thinking. Because polycarbonate, you need to, from what I understand, you need to change its chemical makeup in order to break it or to manipulate it in some way. You can't just break it or shape it, whatever. You can't use it unless you manipulate it. So it's not just a piece of taillight. And I think, I know there's no jury here, but it's important to remember that it's not just a taillight. It's pretty almost indestructible unless you do something to it to make it shatter.
pressure a plastic taillight would need to be subjected before it would crack?
No.
Did you ever do any testing to determine whether or not if a plastic taillight came in contact with a metallic portion of another SUV, whether it would leave any mark?
I haven't done any tests, and I've seen crashes where headlights have struck other vehicles. That's kind of where the experience comes from.
Fair enough. But I'm guessing that those crashes are probably different speeds and higher speeds. Not this, right?
I've had multiple crashes at different speeds.
So, have you ever had
yes.
a crash where you've investigated, the Massachusetts State Police has been brought in to investigate a crash where the car was going in reverse at about a half a mile an hour?
Half a mile an hour?
Whatever that was.
Are you saying the SUV Lexus is going half a mile per hour?
Well, you're the reconstructionist. Give me an estimate of how fast you think that SUV was going at the point of contact with the Traverse.
Maybe like 1 to 2 miles per hour?
Okay, fair enough. Have you ever been called in to a crash, to investigate a crash, where the cars have collided at 1 mile an hour?
I've had pedestrian crashes that have been at a very low speed.
Okay, that wasn't my question. That wasn't quite my question.
Okay.
My question is, have you been called in to a crash involving two vehicles
Yeah.
that have made contact at about 1 mile an hour?
I have seen testing for vehicles at low speeds so next time I have been called to a crash, I go to fatality crashes, but I have seen testing for speeds at low speed impacts,
Okay.
You've seen
How low speed?
testing.
like just the bump.
So like this?
Yes,
Did you see any damage?
yes. All right, well, minimal damage.
Right. In what circumstance? Minimal damage, like, I don't know, like a cracked taillight.
No, like just a little bit of rub off on the paint.
Right? Or you might see nothing, right?
Yes.
You've certainly seen circumstances in which two cars come in contact and there's absolutely no physical damage to either car, nothing observable, right?
Have I gone to
Sure.
crashes that I've seen no physical damage on a car?
Or just in common sense, just everyday life, where one car backs into another car at the Jiffy Lube, makes contact and drives away, and there's no damage.
Not normally. It's usually something with car and car impacts.
Like what's the something?
A crack or a paint, something chip, scratches.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you put a piece of metal in that scenario, if you put a piece of metal, steel, right, against a piece of plastic, which one do you think is going to give way first?
You'll still see some damage to both vehicles at a speed.
Which one would give way first?
Between metal, depends what speeds. And what we're talking about, you're just saying plastic and metal. You're giving a pretty general, broad plastic and metal
Trooper Paul,
analysis here.
you admit, you got to agree with me, that there are circumstances in which low speed, very, very low speed contact between two cars can certainly leave damage on one and not damage on the other, damage on both, or no damage on either one. Observe.
Yes, I just said in a situation where the scratch on the side of her car
Right.
had a scratch mark, and his doesn't appear to have anything.
And you said, under questioning by Mr. Lally, that certain circumstances like this could lead to a lens material, right, plastic material cracking, right?
Say again, like on least.
Just a few minutes ago, Mr. Lally
I'm trying to answer your question. Sorry, yes.
Mr. Lally asked you a question a few minutes ago, and you indicated that something might show up on a bumper. Something might, something might, like a taillight, might actually crack, correct? In a low-speed impact.
A taillight might crack on a low speed impact?
Correct.
Yeah, it might crack.
Okay, now, Mr. Lally also said you saw this video where the cars come close to or make contact, right? That's how he worded the question. Remember that?
Come close. Yep.
Which one is it? Did it come close or did it make contact?
I said it might. I don't know if that scratch from the side is. It's something that's consistent with the height of the bumper. Like I said, I didn't measure them side by side, but you can clearly see there's a scratch on the side, and that's something that looks like that would come back. So as I look at the bumper, and I see the bumper, and it has that little divot, and I look at her side of her car with that scratch mark, that kind of lines up a little bit of why that could be where that was from.
I thought you said there was no damage on that car, on the Traverse.
There is no damage, and that's why I went to why there's the two different paint materials there. That why one could have showed up on her car because it's that flat, the glossy paint on there, and it could have scratched on it. While you have something that's a little more rougher texture with like a flat, flat color on there, that wouldn't leave on there.
So you just described the circumstance in which two cars come in contact, you don't see any observable damage on one, and you do on the other. That's what you just described, right?
Yeah, I suggested that when you asked me that a second ago.
Yeah. With regard to the video, let's get back to the question that I asked, which was, in that video, did the SUV come close to, or did it come in contact with the Traverse?
Again, I don't know because I'm saying based off the damage that is something consistent with that. So most likely it did come in contact with the bumper to bumper, but I don't know definitively because there is no damage to his car, but it's something that could explain why there's a scratch mark alongside the right rear side of his car, or her car.
Did you see the tire move, sir? Did you see the wheel on the Traverse move in that video?
I did.
No, I couldn't see the wheel move.
I beg your pardon?
I didn't see it move. If I did, I didn't observe it moving. If it moved, it moved. I didn't observe it moving. I wasn't looking at the wheel.
When was the first time you saw that video?
I don't really know. It's been a little while,
Well, I don't know what a little while means.
like a year ago, I think.
Okay. So you saw that video a year ago. Did you put anything about that video in your report, which is wherever it is, right here? I'm looking at your entire car's report. Did you put anything in this car's report about watching that video?
No, because I watched the video like after the report was done, and I watched it first time on court TV. So
So who, on court TV, during this trial?
like
And prior here?
no, when it was on TV at some point.
Okay, when did you and Mr. Lally have a discussion about you testifying about this video?
That was a couple weeks ago?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
A couple of weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago.
Is it 10 days ago?
Days ago? 2 weeks ago? I mean, 2 weeks ago? Couple? Two?
Where did you two meet?
At the DA's office.
Was that at your request or was that at Mr. Lally's request?
It was a pre-conference hearing, or pre-trial hearing,
Right. Well, those
or
are
pre-trial conference. Sorry.
done.
So, yes.
We're talking over each other. I'm trying not to talk over each other.
I'm trying not either.
Let's both try hard.
Okay.
Who set up the meeting?
From my pre-trial,
Yes.
Okay.
Paul.
Adam Lally.
Who was at the meeting?
Everybody sitting right here, Lieutenant Tully.
Lieutenant Tully, you, Adam Lally, Laura McLaughlin. I'm guessing Ms. Gilman was not there. Right?
She was not there, correct?
Did Mr. Lally show you this video at that meeting?
Yes,
Did he tell you that he intended to ask you some questions about this video at that meeting?
yes,
Did he ask you whether or not you could render an opinion as to whether or not the impact that you saw, or lack thereof, whatever the case may be, was consistent or inconsistent with damage to the taillight?
yes,
Did you tell him that you would give him such opinion if called upon at trial?
yes.
Did anybody take any notes?
I don't know.
Were you taking notes?
Yes.
Where are those
You
notes?
see that
Paul?
shrug?
I think I just, well, no,
Yes.
not on this specifically, but
That was
just,
totally a lie. That was totally a lie. Yes.
Did you tell him that you would give him such opinion if called upon at trial?
yes.
Did anybody take any notes?
I don't know.
Look at
Were
this
you taking
shrug.
notes?
Yes.
Where are those notes, Trooper Paul?
I think I just, well, no, it's not on this specifically,
Yes.
but just, make sure I had, my everything checks and balance. And for what I want to talk about, what we're going to talk about.
Make sure you had
My
what?
checks and balances, sorry.
Checks and balances.
Just to make sure we're on the same page of what we understand what's going on in the trial.
You want to make sure that you're on the same page with Mr. Lally about what's going on in trial. Right?
Yes.
All right.
Checks and
Did Mr. Lally
balances.
take-
Make sure you've got your checks and balances and make sure you're on the same page with Mr. Lally. Sounds a whole lot like Adam Lally is telling him which way to testify. Don't you think? Sounds a little fishy to me.
take notes?
I have no idea.
You were watching him. I mean, was he writing something down?
I wasn't paying attention to his note taking.
Ms. McLaughlin was there. Was she taking notes?
I don't know.
You didn't see her either?
I don't know if there were people who were taking notes, writing stuff down, or what they're writing stuff down in relation to our little conference.
Did you give him an opinion? We've asked whether or not you were asked to give an opinion, and you said, yes, 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 I was.
Yep.
Did you give an opinion at that meeting about whether or not you believe, in your opinion, the contact between the SUV and the Traverse, the Lexus and the Traverse, could result in the damage to the taillight?
Yes.
What did you tell him in the meeting?
What we talked about already on the stand here.
Okay. So what you relayed to him was exactly what you've relayed in this court.
Yes.
All right. And he told you that he was going to ask, I'm going to ask you to look at the video, correct?
Yes.
You're going to be asked a series of questions about that video, correct?
He told me the video, and he said, okay, this is the video. This is what they think the taillight was broken. And these are the pictures of his car that they take. So they asked my opinion on, do you think that's where a taillight would be broken?
And he told you you need to make sure that you tell the jurors that couldn't have happened in this impact, right?
He didn't tell me I had to make sure jurors, that's my opinion on, it doesn't appear to happen in that video.
Did he tell you that it would be helpful to the prosecution if you said that it would be, that it was inconsistent with the taillight breaking?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. Did he tell you it would be helpful to the case if you said that?
No.
But you knew it would be, right?
I'm just stating what I saw, my professional opinion on what it is.
Got it.
If it looked like it was consistent, I would say it's consistent. If it wasn't consistent, it's not consistent. I'm not going to.
I'm sure that's what you would say.
Okay, so comments are not appropriate for the jury. They're also not very good for me,
Blah,
Mr.
blah,
Jackson.
blah.
Um,
Shut up, Bev.
Did you formalize your new opinion? But this is a new opinion, right? You've never been asked this opinion before.
Yes.
Did you formalize this new opinion in any kind of report or memorialize it in any way?
No.
Did Mr. Lally ask you to create a report of some sort that you could then turn over to the defense so that we would know that you have a new opinion that you're going to testify about?
No.
Nope. And that's what you're
Save those
supposed to
notes.
do. So if he wants to come up with a new opinion about something, he needs to at least, it needs to be, the defense team needs to be notified if he's coming up with a new opinion on something as an expert. I use those terms loosely for him, anyways.
You took about making sure that you were on the same page as Mr. Lally?
Yeah, I'd say fine.
Where are they?
They're my report.
They're in your report?
Yeah, as I was writing a report, I just kind of highlighted stuff that I want to make sure I memorize and remember my report.
Okay. I'm talking about notes specifically about this video, seeing this video and rendering a new opinion about this video.
No, I didn't have notes specifically about this video. I didn't write anything down saying I must do this on this video.
Did you write anything down about the new opinion that you had come up with related to this video?
No, I did not.
I'm just wondering.
Yep.
It's
The car
done.
did not move,
Oh,
and the
wait.
snow did not move. Correct? Mr. Lally in that meeting was that the car did not move, and the snow did not move. Correct?
Correct.
That's all I have.
All right. Did you want to follow up at all, Mr. Lally?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
All right, we're going to skip now to the next day, just day 26 of the trial. And slow it down here because he does talk really fast. So now the next clip, that was all still that voir dire. So what clip were we on? All right. This clip is Trooper Paul's conclusions. Finally, we're getting to his conclusions as to what happened to John. So here we go.
Saturday, January 29, 2022, at approximately 12:45 hours, a 2021 Lexus LX 570 was traveling southbound on Fairview Road, in Area 34 Fairview Road.
Doesn't it sound like he's rehearsing or like reciting something that he memorized? And just look at him, the way that he is like reaching back into, he's making that face like you're reaching back into your mind thinking about what it is you're trying to say. So let's start that over.
Collision occurred.
So this collision occurred on Saturday, January 29, 2022, at approximately 12:45 hours. A 2021 Lexus LX 570 was traveling southbound on Fairview Road, in Area 34 Fairview Road.
Yeah.
It appears that.
So,
Sorry, I'm trying to oppose it.
you know what? I don't, Mr. Lally, break this down. Ask
Yes, please.
simple questions so that the witness can answer your questions. We don't.
He had his folder, which I'm assuming had his notes and papers and whatnot on this. He had that open as he was trying to recite that and going, it happened on da 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 da. The snow was this, the weather was that. Like he's memorizing a script. And Judge the defense, this is now in front of the jury. This is the next day. So the jury's here. And so Alan Jackson of the defense had objected, and rightfully so. Bev sustained it because he should not be giving a narrative. He should only be asking specific pointed questions.
Don't need a narrative.
From your investigation, what, if any, conclusions did you come to as to where this collision occurred?
All right. So on the night of Saturday, January 2022, at approximately 12:45 hours, a 2021 Lexus LX 570.
Could you slow down, sir?
Yes.
So forget all that part,
Okay.
Trooper.
All
Just
right.
answer the question.
Okay.
Where did it occur?
It occurred in the Area 34 Fairview Road.
And who, if anyone, were the participants in this collision sequence?
Even the judge is getting annoyed with this witness, I think.
The operator appeared to be Karen Reed, and the pedestrian was John O'Keefe.
And where was the vehicle located in reference to the residence at 34 Fairview Road?
It was located along the southbound travel lane and to the left side of the house as you look at it from the front.
And as far as the vehicle, what, if any, directionality did it head in, and what, if any, interaction did it have with Mr. O'Keefe?
So the vehicle was traveling in reverse along the southbound travel lane, traveling north.
And how fast was the vehicle traveling and over what distance?
The vehicle traveled up to 24 miles per hour and approximately 62 feet.
And at the time that the vehicle was traveling approximately 24 miles per hour over approximately 62 feet, what, if anything, occurred then?
The right rear of the Lexus struck the pedestrian John O'Keefe.
And post-collision, what, if anything, occurred with regard to Mr. O'Keefe?
Mr. O'Keefe was projected forward and to the left along the front yard of 34 Fairview Road.
And post-collision with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did the defendant's vehicle do?
The Lexus continued traveling in reverse before they left the area.
Now, as far as the vehicle itself, from your inspection, what, if any, role did any...
Wait, she continued traveling in reverse until she left the area? So she just drove down 34 Fairview Road in reverse? Is that what he's saying? I mean, I know that's not what he's saying, but that's what he just said. She continued going down in reverse until she left the area. How did she leave? In reverse? Or did she turn around? Did she do a U-turn? Did she do a 3-point turn? There's a whole bunch of questions about that too, because this version of events has changed. Whether it was a U-turn, a 3-point turn, or whatever it might have been.
mechanical mechanical aspects of the vehicle play in this collision?
There were no mechanical defects.
As far as your analysis of the roadway and other factors related to that, what, if any, role did they play in this collision sequence?
There were no roadway or environmental factors that contribute to this collision.
Whoops. Oh man, I lost my spot. He just said there were no roadway or whatever he just said. Let's find it again. I was like right here. Hold on. All right, sorry. I lost our spot. So yeah, how did he leave how did she leave the area, basically, is what I was saying. Because he says she left in reverse, or she continued in reverse until she left the area. Through it again.
34 Fairview Road.
And post-collision with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did the defendant's vehicle do?
The Lexus continued traveling in reverse before they left the area.
Now, as far as the vehicle itself, from your inspection, what, if any, role did any mechanical aspects of the vehicle play in this collision?
There were no mechanical defects.
As far as your analysis of the roadway and other factors related to that, what, if any, role did they play in this collision sequence?
There were no roadway or environmental factors that contribute to this collision.
No roadway or environmental factors that contributed. Oh, sorry, that contributed to the collision. Well, sorry, dog needs a blanket. There was no reason. How would they know? Well, they don't even know, first of all, that there was a collision. He said it was due to her going in reverse or whatever. I don't know. He's got some dumb explanation. We'll hear it later. Let's just keep
Now,
going.
sir, with respect to your investigation, what, if any, opinions did you draw based on your training and experience in regard to this collision and how it occurred?
May I look at my report real quick? Just to make sure.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So throughout my investigation, this appeared to be a single car collision involving a pedestrian. The vehicle was traveling at a higher acceleration when. Sorry.
He's nervous.
The vehicle accelerated at a high rate of speed before she struck the pedestrian John O'Keefe on the roadway and subsequently left him at the scene.
And with respect to the backup safety system that you observed in this vehicle and made use of in the course of your visibility analysis, what, if any, role is it your opinion that played in how this crash occurred?
Based on the visibility analysis. So even if the camera systems were covered in snow, even the systems were defective anyway, and even the mirrors were blocked, an attentive and a reasonable operator would not travel in reverse, especially at a high rate of speed. They would have cleaned the mirrors off. They would have made the cameras and systems, if they worked, if they didn't work, they would have done all this prior to accelerating in reverse.
The objection sustained.
Move to strike.
I'm going to strike that.
Now, with respect to your observations during the course of the visibility analysis, the exemplar.
And that was freaking from the record. All right, we're gonna skip forward here just a second. This is, I call it, Trooper Paul's about to get clobbered because it's cross-examination time. And AJ is coming in hot. And now remember, whatever we just heard with Alan Jackson, that was not in front of the jury. This time, the jury is in the room and they're going to hear everything that Jackson has, all of Jackson's fiery questions. So let's go.
So do you have any, do you hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of mathematics?
I do not.
Do you hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of physics?
I do not.
Hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of biomechanics?
No.
How about in engineering?
No.
How about in kinematics?
No.
What's the highest degree that you do hold, sir?
I have an associate's degree.
In what?
Administration of justice.
You mentioned kinematics on Friday. Do you hold any certificates in the specific area of kinematics?
Yes, it's covered in the basic crash investigation classes.
Okay, so you took a class, in other words, correct?
Multiple classes.
They introduced the idea of what kinematics is, right?
Correct.
You testified about that on Friday.
Yes.
Define kinematics, George.
It deals with the aspect of motion.
It's a subfield of what broader field?
Kinematics?
Kinematics is a subfield of what broader discipline of science?
I'm not sure.
I mean, physics, correct?
Yes.
It describes how points and objects, and systems of objects, how they move, and how the rate they move and the rate of their velocity, correct?
It deals with emotions.
What's that called? The rate of velocity. What's another word for that?
The rate of velocity?
Correct.
I mean, it deals with motion. It deals with forward, and also deals with speed. It deals with travel and speed. If something's moving, it also has a speed to it.
Right. The word you're looking for is acceleration, correct?
Sure.
What role does acceleration play in the field of kinematics?
What role does acceleration play in kinematics?
Correct.
It talks about, like you just said,
He keeps repeating Alan Jackson's questions, pretty much alerting us to the fact that he's stalling, buying time so that he can think of an answer. He's not sure of how to answer it, or he doesn't know the answer and he's trying to come up with something while he stalls for a few seconds.
talks about the speed and talks about motion.
Is kinematics also known as the geometry of motion? Is that correct?
I have not heard that.
Never heard that. What's the difference between constrained and unconstrained motion?
Constrained and unconstrained motion.
That's what I asked.
Constrained motion. I can't recollect that at the moment.
Constrained motion is motion on a predetermined path, isn't it?
Yes.
Unconstrained motion is what?
One doesn't have a predetermined path.
Free movement, correct?
Correct.
Can you remember that from your class?
For the most part, we don't go that in depth, constrained and unconstrained.
Constrained and unconstrained, not restrained.
That's what I said. Sorry, unconstrained. Yes.
Kinematics uses algebraic formula to model these motions, right? The motions of these points and systems of points, correct?
Yes.
And it includes concepts like displacement and speed, velocity, distance, acceleration, which we've talked about, correct?
Correct.
And it looks at how these things, these values vary over a point in time, or duration in time. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you actually understand the physics behind the study of kinematics?
Yes.
The word you learned in class.
Yes, we had to go over the physics part of it.
On Friday, you said that this incident is a pedestrian strike from a vehicle. You reiterated that again this morning. Is that right?
Correct.
I want to be clear. That is your opinion based on your training and experience, correct?
Yes.
And on Friday, you said you based that opinion on the fact that you noted a half-mile-an-hour decrease in speed and a steering input of less than 10 degrees at some point in that reverse motion.
See, that's what I couldn't remember. So, what is
A
it?
steering input of less than 10.
Why can't I click on the... Okay, so a half mile hour decrease in speed and a steering input of less than 10 degrees at some point in that reverse motion. So that's his reasoning that John O'Keefe was hit there, that a pedestrian was hit, because she went half a mile an hour decrease in speed, and then her steering input of less than 10 degrees at some point in that reverse motion. How is that conclusive evidence? How is that conclusive of anything?
That was consistent. That data point in general was consistent with something that you would see within data of a pedestrian striker striking something else. I do go in my report saying I can't say that's definitively where a pedestrian was struck, but
I'm sorry, I could barely
it wasn't definitively. Sorry, in my report I do say I can't say that is definitively where the pedestrian struck.
You cannot say this.
Definitively, yes.
Okay, so you're going to have to slow down and speak up, okay?
All right.
You just said, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, and I apologize.
Okay.
You said you cannot say definitively that resulted in a pedestrian strike.
That data.
Yes, Alan Jackson, you heard him correctly, except he didn't say definitively, he said definitely, which people made fun of on Reddit. I think it's kind of funny. I feel bad. Like, I don't want to make fun of him or how he pronounces words, even though there's a couple words that he pronounces that I'm like, oh boy. But this poor guy, I mean, I feel sort of bad for him because in one point, I think he was kind of like thrown to the wolves in order to take one for the team. Go up there and make yourself look a fool on the stand, and then we'll owe you one later or something because he looks bad. He comes off really bad. He looks bad. He doesn't seem to want to answer things on cross, and he has difficulty with a lot of the definitions and things regarding physics and acceleration, and I don't know anything about that, but he's supposed to know anything. He's supposed to know a lot about that, and there isn't a whole lot there to be had.
Points within the text stream data is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That specific points, that time frame.
Because there's a multitude of reasons why when someone is driving in reverse, they might slow down by 1/2 mile an hour, right?
Yep.
It's when I say when it's consistent is because there's the other aspects of it is the fact that the accelerator is consistently strong.
Let him answer. Finish your answer.
So the accelerator is at a constant rate, and then it just drops by 1/2 mile, and the steering wheel all of a sudden abruptly goes to the right. That's what I'm talking about when I say it is consistent with a pedestrian strike. That's something that you would see. It's not going to be a huge change of speed during this collision.
You also note that at the time, it had begun to snow, correct?
Yes.
There would be snow on the lawn, right?
Correct.
There would be snow on the cars,
Yes.
snow on the trees,
Yes.
snow on the roadway.
Yes.
Snow on the roadway could impact how tires move over the roadway, correct?
In a way.
And obviously, there are a multitude of reasons why somebody might input a 10-degree input on a steering wheel, correct?
Correct. That's why I can definitely say it.
Right. So every time somebody slows down, going in reverse or forward, and introduces a 10-degree input on the steering wheel, doesn't mean they're looking to hit a pedestrian, correct?
Correct.
You testified that you determined the area of impact by basically following, if I
All right, so that's the end of that clip. We're going to move on to the next one. Clip. I lost count. I think it's 7 or 8. There's no evidence he flew through the air. That's what I call this one. 42.
My scale is 2 and 3 is 50 feet from each other.
It's how much?
50,
Okay. 50.
50.
So would you agree that from this X down here to pedestrian's final rest, as the crow flies, that's probably a good 35, 40 feet?
I mean, I could try to use the scale, but it is the scale.
So that, where he highlighted earlier, there's an X here, which is what he's saying is the point of impact. So apparently he was hit here and then ended up over here, which is 30 to 40 feet away from where he was hit, according to Trooper Paul's data.
Yes, please.
So he calculates it. He says it's about 30 feet.
It's approximately 30 feet.
We're approximately 30 feet.
Yes.
Okay. Can you place, with the court's permission, can you estimate 30 feet in here?
Can
Can you point to a place in the courtroom that looks like it's 30 feet from you?
Objection.
No. Next
And
question.
why not? Why, Bev? Why can he not demonstrate anything in your courtroom? Yet Lolly can sit there and bore us to sleep and drone on and on and on and ask the same damn questions of the same damn witnesses, like same kinds of witnesses over and over again. Such a waste of time. Yet Al Jackson can't ask his witness to say, "Can you kind of show me where 30 feet is? What does 30 feet look like?" Because that is a perfectly good and legitimate question to ask a witness. And for her not to let him demonstrate, he's wanted to demonstrate other things before in the courtroom, and she hasn't let him. He wanted to do like a 22-second demonstration of silence to see how long that was, because 22 seconds, you could say a lot of things in that time. So, because that was the butt dial that Brian Higgins and Brian Albert supposedly had their butt dial 22-second conversation between their butts or something. I don't know. So we're gonna we're gonna keep going. Um, where were we? Oh, we're still in the middle of this one.
Does the court have a diagram of a diagram of distances?
In this courtroom? No.
Oh,
You
rude.
indicated just now, and then I'm finished with this. Thank you. Thanks. You indicated just now, in answer to Mr. Lowley's last couple of questions, that in your expert opinion, when the SUV struck the pedestrian, John O'Keefe, he was, quote, projected forward and to the left to the front yard to his final place of rest.
Yes.
So your expert testimony is that John O'Keefe was hit with the SUV and flew 30 feet.
Projected mean like I don't say he flew all the way there. He was projected in that way. He got pushed forward in that direction.
Which he was rendered incapacitated, landed there, and had to sort of fly there, correct? He didn't walk there.
I mean, would you definitely flying like literally off the ground the whole entire time? Or,
Well, you tell me, you're the expert.
I mean, when we say projected, we mean he gets projected and they usually have a landing phase and they land and they either roll or tumble to final rest.
Okay, how far do you think he landed? How far was it until he landed of that 30 feet?
I don't know. There's no indication of where his exact landing spot was.
Right. Is there any evidence whatsoever that he landed and rolled?
And there was no evidence that he landed or rolled. Or no, rolled.
According to you, the evidence that you have in front of you is that you get hit, fly 30 feet, land where he ended up at his final rest, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
Based on your expert opinion, you believe that he was projected through the air to his final rest place.
That's not what I was saying.
That is what he's saying. That's pretty much what he said. But otherwise, he rolled. But there was no evidence of him rolling, and there was no evidence of him
You said
flying
there's no
through the
evidence that he
air.
rolled.
There's no
evidence of a
evidence that
roll.
he flew through the air either.
Sorry,
It's
I
not-
ruined it.
You believe that he was projected through the air to his final rest place.
That's not what I was saying.
Well, you said there's no evidence that he rolled.
And there's no evidence that he flew through the air either.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
Objection.
Sustained.
Sustained. F off, Beverly. Do you guys remember there was a pretrial hearing where she had the Zoom feed on. She couldn't figure out how to mute like all these people that were on the Zoom feed, and somebody yelled "F off, Beverly" really loud in front of everybody while court was in session. It was great. And then somebody screamed out "Free Billy Tibbetts." So I don't know what that was about, but whoever that is, free Billy Tibbetts. All right, so that's why I said F off Beverly, because that's how I feel. She sustained all of Anna Mullally's objections. All right, so the next one we're going to go to, the next clip I call "I Don't Know, I Wasn't There."
You said on Friday that in your experience, people tend to lose objects that are not strapped to them. Is that right?
Yes.
In other words, get hit by something, car, truck, bus, whatever, train, and if you have something in your hand, boom, you lose it, you drop it. If it's not strapped to you, correct?
Correct.
How do you suppose that Mr. O'Keefe, in your opinion, held on to that glass cup that was found right next to him over the course of 30 feet being projected?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Do you have a theory on that?
I don't know. I mean, it just could have been with him the whole way. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know how the glass stayed with his body and went with him to the final rest.
So you,
Isn't he the reconstructionist? So, like, the whole point is, yeah, nobody was there that can tell us what happened. So, you, as the reconstructionist, is supposed to tell us how all of the events occurred. How did the glass get there? How did John's body get here? How did his shoe end up over here? How did a taillight piece end up over by the fire? Like, he's supposed to tell us that. He's the reconstructionist. But his answer is, "I don't know, I wasn't there." Are we in the Twilight Zone? I know I know. It really does feel like I'm being gaslit this whole freaking trial. Every single witness from the prosecution seems to be gaslighting us all, and they really think that we're that stupid.
I mean, it's just common sense. You have to believe it. It was in his hand. He held onto it the entire time he was being projected there. Right.
It's possibly, it could have been his hand, it could have been tucked next to his clothing, could, you know,
Did you say tucked into?
I mean, like, could have been next to his body. So when he projected, made the glass was with his body as it was also flying. So there's a number of reasons why the glass, because it also got projected with the body while he was holding it.
I thought you said on Friday, and you just agreed with me, that people drop things when they're hit.
Yes, body thing, not everything it tends to fly off. I mean, some stuff flies off, some stuff will stay on.
I see.
It's just it's not uncommon to find a piece of clothing and stuff, you know, that you find at the scene.
Piece of clothing.
Like clothing, like shoes. I mean, it's like shoes and stuff like that to come off the body during a pedestrian crash.
Well, that's not what I asked.
I know. I'm just saying. You asked me. You said what I just. I'm just responding to what you said. I'm trying to make sure you understand what I'm saying.
No, I don't. But I'll
Okay.
ask another question. Shoes are strapped on by definition, right?
Yes, but it's very common for shoes to come off.
How about his cell phone?
Cell phone. Yeah. Yeah, it depends. Depends on where it is.
Well, it was under his body.
Okay.
How do you account for that? He held onto his cell phone with one hand and held onto cup with the other.
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
If the cell phone was found under his torso, under his body, what's your theory on how that cell phone ended up flying 30 feet?
Cell phone was found under his body, but I don't know where that is actually memorialized anywhere other than we know from Carrie Roberts that she says she found it under him. But Carrie Roberts, I don't believe. And I know people want to say, like, you know, she's believable and all that and whatever, but I still don't believe her. I still associate her with the McAlberts in this because she was there that night. She was in that house that night. So she very likely could know what happened to John O'Keefe. And she's not willing to come forward and tell the truth if she does. So there's that. Anyways, I don't know how I got on Carrie Roberts, but where was I?
It just did.
30 feet. It just did.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
Hear that again.
If the cell phone was found under his torso, under his body, what's your theory on how that cell phone ended up flying 30 feet?
It just did.
Just did. And somehow, as he landed, tucked that cell phone underneath his body so he landed on top of it.
Yep.
It just did. That's the evidence at the scene. I didn't put the evidence there. So
Well, you didn't.
You hear that? He says, I didn't put the evidence at the scene. And Alan Jackson goes, well, you didn't. Because we all know Proctor did plant taillight at the scene.
Objection.
All right, so jurors, I've told you before, lawyers cannot make comments. So
Blah, blah,
disregard
blah.
it. Mr. Jackson, don't do it again.
I understand. So in
You
one hand,
understand, but don't do it. Your answer is always, I understand. Don't do it.
F off, Beverly.
cell phone in one hand, cup in the other hand, flew through the air, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were informed of this incident on January 29th, 2022 at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Is that right?
yes,
At the time, you were working out of the CARS facility, which is located on West Grove Street in Middleborough. Is that right?
yes,
By the way, that's a facility that has multiple garages. Sally ports, I don't know if they're called Sally ports, but garage bays, correct?
the mechanic shop are there.
All right, we can skip on to the next one. It's 54, 34.
3-4 minutes apart.
Yeah.
I call this clip, who gave you that information?
Say that.
When you started let me ask this a little bit different way. Before you began any review on this case, any physical review on this case or analysis on the case, you were told that there had been a crash, correct?
Yes,
You testified to that at the state court grand jury in this matter. Is that right? That you've been told in advance this was a vehicle pedestrian crash, and you were asked to analyze it, right?
Yes.
You wrote in your report that it was a single vehicle collision involving a pedestrian, and you were, quote, assigned to reconstruct that collision, correct?
Yes.
So when you began your analysis, Trooper Paul, you were told conclusively by the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, that the deceased was hit by a car, and your job was to reconstruct it. Is that right?
Objection.
Okay, so there are lots of parts to that. Break it down.
Sure. Were you told by Michael Proctor to reconstruct this incident?
Objection.
So were you told that by Trooper Proctor?
I was not.
Okay, next question.
Sure. Who were you told, who were you given your instructions by
Instructions for what?
to reconstruct this incident?
I wasn't given instructions to reconstruct it. It's just I was assigned to it.
Right.
That was requested. My assistance was requested to reconstruct it.
That's my question. Who assigned you to it?
I talked to my sergeant at the time who gave me the phone call.
And you were told some basics about that reconstruction, the event that you were asked to reconstruct, correct?
Yes.
The information that you were told came from the case officer. Is that right?
Who's the case officer?
The information that this was a
He said, who's the case officer? So he doesn't understand the term case officer, which was the title that they gave Trooper Proctor so that they make him look like he was not the lead investigator, which he was of this case, even though, they wanted to disassociate him because of the whole family relationships and whatnots, and now his internal investigation that's going on regarding his conduct.
pedestrian vehicle incident, as opposed to motor vehicle incident, pedestrian bicycle, motor vehicle motorcycle. You were told it was a motor vehicle pedestrian incident that you were asked to reconstruct, correct?
Yeah, I was told that, yes.
All right, and you had to be given some basic parameters of how that incident occurred. The car was going in reverse, it's got a damaged taillight, things like that.
Some basic stuff, yeah.
What I'm trying to get to is, who gave you that information? Where'd it come from?
That the car was traveling in, like, which part of the information? You asked me about several different things just now.
Were you given information from multiple sources? Or did someone give you a summary of what you were being asked to do? At the very beginning,
Yep.
who gave you the summary
Summary of the whole entire, of what?
of the event that you were asked to reconstruct?
I was passed down when I got to the garage. There was nobody that sat there and gave me the summary, like, that I can remember. I was told that it was a pedestrian crash. I knew it was a Boston police officer involved, that this was a vehicle, and that it was traveling in reverse. That's all they had.
Okay. What I'm asking is, that's great. Thank you for the summary. Who gave you that summary?
I don't know if it was definitely anybody from the get-go that was like I talked to.
From where?
I don't know if it's anybody that I could definitely say that was the person. There was multiple people going around when I got there. I think I talked to Trooper Zach Clark. He was doing the crime scene. I think he was Zach Clark. He was the crime scene photos at the time. I knew him from past crashes. He just said this is the vehicle, and I think he kind of gave me a little bit of a lowdown on what the vehicle was.
Okay.
So
My question is this. When you got that, did you call it a lowdown? He gave you the lowdown?
Lowdown.
he gave me information, yes.
Right. When you got the lowdown, you were told Boston police officer was involved, the vehicle pedestrian incident, car was going in reverse, and ultimately led to the death of the pedestrian. Struck the pedestrian in reverse, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you were assigned specifically to try to reconstruct that incident.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the phrase confirmation bias?
I know the phrase, yes.
You know what it means?
I can't definitely say what it means.
Developing a conclusion and then trying to find evidence to fit that conclusion. Does that sound right?
If you say so.
If you say so. All right, we're going to skip now to 101, 20. This is called The Crime Scene Told Me.
Do you have any scientific evidence that those scratches occurred on January 29th at approximately 12:45 a.m.?
What do you mean by scientific evidence?
Do you have any evidence whatsoever that you can point to that those scratches occurred on that date and at that time rather than any other time in the history of that vehicle?
Like I said earlier, the video seems to appear that's what it looks like that could have been from.
Well, you said on Friday, let's talk about those scratches for a second. Because
Yeah.
when you testified Friday, you were pretty clear. You said that, if I can find it exactly. I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
dent and scratches for his hand could be, those are consistent with striking the Lexus. Remember saying that?
Yes, on the tailgate.
Okay, so the dent and scratches you talked about on Friday, you said were from his hand.
Yes, hand in the glass cup.
Okay.
So he's saying that John O'Keefe dented the car or scratched the car with his hand, and now the glass cup. But no, he scratched the taillight with his hand.
Then are those the same scratches you're talking about in terms of the bumper?
No.
So,
What are you talking about, the scratch inside the bumper that we've been talking about?
correct.
Okay,
That's what I'm
no.
talking about. Okay. Is there any way to scientifically date a scratch?
No.
If you go out in the parking lot right now, even as an accident reconstructionist, you walk out in the parking lot right now and look at a Toyota Camry sitting there. It's got a scratch on it. There's no analysis that you could engage in to date that scratch, could you?
Objection.
So you can ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Is there any way that you could, in general, look at a scratch and say, that scratch is from such and such date?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Nothing more.
I'll allow it.
You cannot say. You can look at evidence and shows that it may have been older than what the newer evidence would be, but there's no way to say that specific date and time and that a scratch would came from.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's possible that any or all of those scratches on the Lexus could have predated January 29th, correct?
No.
No.
That's not possible.
The ones that are on from the taillight and the other parts of it.
Scratches anywhere on the car.
Depends on what you got to pick the other scratches. You got to show me other scratches on the car.
I'm saying it's possible, since you can't date the scratch, it's possible that any or all of those scratches could predate January 29th. It's a simple question, right? It's possible.
You're being pretty broad on your scratches here.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not being brought it. Let me ask it a different way. Let me ask it again. Is it possible that any or all of the scratches noted on that car predate January 29th?
Any and all of the scratches? See, that's what I'm saying. You're being pretty broad. Any and all scratches on the car
Answer that question. If
that
it's
predate.
Objection.
I don't know every single scratch on that car. I could mean
Overruled. So can you answer that question?
no.
You testified that you noted glass on the rear bumper of the SUV, correct?
Yes.
And you said something about that glass coming from the cup.
Correct.
You also said that you did not see anything on that SUV that could be the source of those glass pieces on the bumper, right?
Yes.
When you did your reconstruction and your analysis, were you informed that none of the glass pieces, not one of them, could be matched to the cup?
I don't know anything about that. I don't know that.
So if you knew that the glass pieces on the bumper do not match the cup, would that change your opinion
Objection.
about that glass?
Can you answer that question?
I cannot.
You can't answer the question?
It's what was told to me as evidence
Got it. By whom?
by the crime scene.
What?
As crime scene that was there, it says there's glass from the cup. When I did my initial inspection, that's what it was on from.
That's not what you just said. You said that's what was told to me.
Yeah, by crime. I continue by crime scene. While I was at my inspection,
Wait, what?
it was told to me by the crime scene when I was at my inspection, at the initial inspection.
So what you meant by that's what was
Higher.
told to me is the crime scene talked to you.
Yes.
Crime scene say anything else?
I don't know what else you want me to say.
I'm surprised Lolly didn't object to that, but isn't that hilarious? So the crime scene told you. Crime scene told him. Not a person, but the crime scene itself. All right, we're going to skip ahead. So we're going to talk some more about key cycles. And this segment is called Those Darn Key Cycles.
Scenario, yes.
Fine. With that definition, I want to talk about ignition cycles because I don't want to get confused about accessories. Just assume the engine.
Okay.
comes up, all right?
Okay.
If you started your testing at 1164, then if the engine was turned on, thereby initiating a key cycle, driving the car onto a flatbed truck, and then hauling it over to Canton PD, that would be key cycle 1163 in that hypothetical, correct?
It could be.
Okay. Then going backward from there, if the SUV was, I'm sorry, let me
if you look at this chart that they made, there is no 1163. It goes 1162 to 1164. And there's also another area on here where it's missing. It goes from 4 to 5 to 7. So it's missing 1166 also, which is interesting to note. I don't know why, but that is what we have. So I'm going to leave this on the screen for a little bit. These are the key cycles he's referring to. So if we start at key cycle 1164, where the top of that red arrow starts on the right hand column, or the second to the last on the right hand, where it says 12665. So after that point on, that's when he had possession of the Lexus. So all of those key cycles are going to be part of their. Sorry, I don't know why Alexa is talking to me for no reason. I have to tell her to shut up. All right, so I don't know what I was saying until Alexa so rudely interrupted me. So these key cycles, key cycles, key cycles. I don't know what I was saying, but I'll leave this on the screen for a little bit while Jackson talks about them. You can see which ones he's talking about.
Let me add one event that I just forgot. It had to get off the tow truck in Canton and to be driven into the Sally Port. Did you ever see that video?
So he went through all the different stops and things that Karen did prior to that night, and at that night, he went through all the different triggering events, I guess he would call them on that night leading up until that day. So, but then after she takes it back to John's house, there's still she goes to her parents after that. She goes to Dighton. After that, it gets towed, but it gets put on the tow truck. So that's another key cycle because they have to turn it on to put it on the tow truck. And then it gets turned on again to bring it to the Sally Port. And after that point, we don't know because it was in the possession of crooked Michael Proctor. So we don't know how many key cycles actually were in place at that time. So this is important to note because some of the key cycles might be Proctor, and we definitely know that this guy used the wrong key cycle when insisting that there was some kind of triggering event that shows that that was when she hit him. Because if you went by the actual, if you tacked on all the tow trucks and other things in between, then you would know that he used the wrong key cycles in order to evaluate where John was struck. So that's basically what he's getting into. I wanted to explain it to you so you weren't totally confused because I didn't go through all of his key cycle testimony, which was confusing. So here we go. Now you know.
No. Being driven in?
No.
If there was a video showing that the car was actually driven into the Sally Port, that would necessarily be a key cycle, correct?
Possibly.
Okay, so that would be key cycle 1163. My mistake, I was missing one, right?
Okay.
Before that, if the car was turned on and driven onto the flatbed to get to Canton, that would be key cycle 1162 in order, correct? We're going back.
It's possible.
All right. Before that, if the car was started and the car was driven from One Meadows Avenue to Karen Reed's parents' home in Dighton, that would be another key cycle, 1161, correct?
Very possible.
Before that, if the SUV was started and driven by Miss Reed from the garage at John O'Keefe's house to Jennifer McCabe's house at 5:07 in the morning, that would be another key cycle, correct? 1160. Is that right?
It's possible.
And before that, if the SUV was started and driven by Miss Reed to the waterfall, from the waterfall to 34 Fairview at approximately 12:15 a.m., that would be another key cycle, 1159, right?
It's possible.
I want to be clear. The reason that these numbers skip in your
Oh, I guess
diagram.
yes.
They don't go directly in order, right? About every single number is in order on this left-hand column, because this is only a diagram of when triggering events occur, right?
Yes.
Something unusual about the operation of the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And it's clear that from the data, there was no triggering event at key cycle 1159, was there?
No.
Which is when she would have been.
So assuming the driving events that I just told you, right? Assuming for purposes of my question,
Assuming.
that the driving events started at 11:59, driving over to 34 Fairview from the waterfall. Then driving at 5:07 in the morning over to Jen McCabe's house, 11:60. Then driving to Dighton, to her parents' house, 11:61. Then the car being seized in Dighton by Trooper Proctor, 11:62. Then the car being taken off the flatbed and driven into Sallyport at Canton, 11:63. Your testing starts at 11:64. That would mean that at 11:62, that key cycle would include the time in which Trooper Proctor had possession of that car, correct?
No.
Assuming my hypothetical.
Your hypothetical?
Yes.
If that's hypothetically how it works, then yes.
Then what?
If that's hypothetically how it works, then yes.
I got him to admit it, that could be the case.
On June 9th, 2022, you were asked by a grand jury whether you knew or had done any scientific testing to determine the distance a body would actually travel if struck by a vehicle. Remember that?
Not that specifically. Not in that way.
Do you remember answering that you had not based? I'm just.
All right, we're going to skip now to 142 something. So this is, what do you mean by physics? There were so many good lines that I could have used to title these things, and he gave me so many good options, but I'm trying not to make fun of him too much because I do kind of feel bad for him that he's in the hot seat and having to answer to all this and looking like a fool, because that's what he looks like. But on the other hand, I don't know how willing he was to say, "Hey, I'll put her away." I mean, these cops could be like, um, they could be potentially forced by superiors to do things like this, or to, I don't know, they could be blinded by their hatred for her because John was an officer in blue, a brother in blue, and they don't like her because whatever reason, she's an outsider. So who knows? But we do know that she's not getting a fair shot with these cops. So what did I call this? What do you mean by physics?
You were asked. Does that remind you that you were asked by a grand jury if you could calculate how far a body would move having been struck by a vehicle?
Yes.
And you indicated, quote, yeah, there's certain calculations we can do with that, but figure out if the car backed up, hit somebody, and then they go a certain amount of distance, and it's based on miles per hour, the speed of the vehicle, the striking vehicle, and stuff. Remember saying that?
Yes.
What did you mean by stuff?
I don't know.
You said that the calculations would be based on miles per hour and stuff. Did you ever do any stuff?
He said in a grand
Test
jury
that.
testimony, in his grand jury testimony, he said, what did he say? Physics and stuff?
Saying that?
Yes.
What did you mean by stuff?
Yes.
I don't know.
You said that the calculations would be based on miles per hour and stuff. Did you ever do any stuff to test that? This is the grand jury's question.
No, we cannot calculate anything from this collision.
Say that one more time.
We cannot calculate anything from this collision.
Who's we?
I'm sorry, me. The role me.
Well, John O'Keefe's weight, right?
He said we, which makes me think that there might have been some pressure from someone higher above him. He said he got this assignment from his sergeant. I would like to know who his sergeant is and how they're related to the rest of the MSP troopers and whatnot, because that could play a role in how they're getting their expert witness to testify to these things. They probably couldn't find anybody outside of MSP to testify that John's injuries came from a motor vehicle accident.
What's that?
You know John O'Keefe's weight, 17 pounds, right?
Yes.
Did you know that?
I don't know his weight, no.
He didn't know.
You know the weight of the vehicle?
Yes.
What's the weight of the vehicle, gross weight?
What's the gross weight?
Yeah.
I think it's approximately 7,300 pounds.
I think Turtle Boy said on his live stream last night it's 5,900 pounds. So he's way off. He's way off.
Okay. Were you able to calculate the mass of the vehicle?
I did not calculate the mass of the vehicle.
Well, you told the grand jury that you were planning on doing that kind of stuff to calculate how far a person would travel being struck at that speed with a car of that weight. You didn't do those calculations?
No, because the calculations would vastly underestimate the speed of the vehicle.
You testified, again, my report isn't done yet. I'm going to look into it. I'm looking into all that stuff, end quote, correct?
Yes.
There's that word again. It's been more than 2 years since that statement at the grand jury. Is your report finished?
Yes, it is.
Did you engage in any of those calculations?
I looked into it. This type of collision I would not be able to use the formulas for this type of collision.
Well, let's talk about those formulas. How would you calculate how far a body at rest would travel after being struck by an object in motion? How would you calculate that?
In pedestrian collisions, I use a Searle formula, Searle throw formula.
A what formula?
Searle.
What does that mean?
It's a type of formula that we use for a calculation of post-impact speeds for pedestrians.
That includes certain principles of physics to calculate that, right?
Physics.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean by certain forms of physics?
There would be
Sorry.
physics calculations that would be required to figure out how far a body at rest would move having been struck by an object in motion. Right? That's a basic principle of
Yeah, I guess you could say.
All right. Can you describe for the jurors exactly what calculations you would need to employ to determine how far a body at rest would travel having been struck by an object in motion?
So, in this scenario, in this collision, it's more of a side swipe. So he did not sustain. He did not get enough speed of the vehicle post impact with the vehicle to be able calculations. His center of mass was offset from the vehicle, so we would vastly underestimate his speed. So that's why I did not do a formula. If he was more in line with behind the vehicle, he would have been projected forward, and using that projection forward, he would have been able to get more closer to the actual speed of the vehicle during that post impact travels.
Well, that presumes a couple of things, Paul. That presumes that he was quote unquote sideswiped, right?
Presumed.
Presumed by you. You didn't see how he was hit, did you?
Based on the evidence, it appeared to be a side swipe.
That's your opinion.
That's just reading the evidence.
You're saying that the principles of physics as we know them today in modern mathematics is thwarted by a sideswipe?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying?
The calculations that are out there, you can get a speed, it will just underestimate the speed.
You would have to know what the initial momentum of the object is that's in motion, correct?
Of what object?
The truck, Paul.
I would have to know that speed.
Yeah, you'd have to know what the initial momentum is, not speed, momentum. There's a difference,
Okay.
right? Would you agree with that?
No.
You wouldn't have to calculate what the initial momentum is of the object in motion to determine the distance of the body at rest would move?
Well, now in that sense, are we talking about trying to find the speed of the vehicle? That's usually what we're trying to do.
Right, okay. Well, let's put the speed of the vehicle aside. Let's talk about initial momentum. What's the formula for calculating initial momentum?
There's different types of momentum formulas.
Well, there's actually one type of momentum formula. It's to calculate momentum.
Objection.
Sustained.
To calculate momentum, there is a singular...
So sustained. Ask it differently.
Isn't it true, Trooper Paul, that there is a singular calculation for determining initial momentum? That is P equals M times V, where P is the momentum. You're solving for that. M is mass. You multiply that by velocity. Is that right? Pretty simple.
You wouldn't use that in a pedestrian collision.
Oh, because the pedestrian's somehow magically out of the realm of physics?
Objection.
Sustained.
Is a pedestrian out of the realm of physics and calculations?
No, it's the weight differential between the pedestrian and the vehicle.
So if the vehicle is too heavy and the body is too light, you can't calculate the initial momentum of the vehicle?
Yes.
Got it. Where'd you learn that?
It's in my math class. We only use momentum for a vehicle to vehicle.
Math class?
The crash reconstruction classes I have taken.
Got it. Would you need to apply the theory of conservation of momentum in calculating these data?
Do I need to calculate the conservation of momentum?
Heard of conservation of momentum?
Yes.
You know what that is? There's an equation for that as well, right?
Yes.
You know what that is?
Not off the top of my head, but yes.
I mean, isn't this just painful? Painful to watch. Um, that was it for that one. Now, this last clip I call Jackson Brings It Home. Where are we? Oh, 152. So this is going to be the end of cross, and he's going to bring it home, AJ.
Of determining with the proper calculations how far John O'Keefe's body would have moved given the collision at issue.
Objection.
Is that what you're saying, Trooper?
No.
Okay, next question.
Well, you just said because it was a sideswipe, all these calculations, these physics calculations are inapplicable, right?
I'm saying it would underestimate the speed, the distance.
The truth is, Trooper Paul, you have no idea what all these physics calculations mean, do you?
Objection.
Sustained.
You've not been trained in physics formally, have you?
Yes.
You have been.
It's incorporated into the classes.
Right, you have a few classes that use the word physics, but you haven't been formally trained in physics, have you?
Objection.
Sustained.
You haven't been formally trained in kinematics, correct?
It's in the aspects of all our crash reconstruction classes.
You haven't been formally trained and hold no degrees in biomechanics, do you?
I do not have a degree in biomechanics.
In fact, basically what you did in this case was calculated emission cycles. And you even got those wrong, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson. Ask the appropriate part of the question, you'll get it.
So annoying.
Let me ask you this. Based on your reconstruction, nearly 2-year investigation, exactly how was that taillight shattered? Explain it to us.
How does the taillight? What do you mean? It gets so the taillight in this case was shattered when it was struck John O'Keefe's arm.
Exactly what part of his arm?
It, based on what I saw for his injuries, was from the upper part of his arm down.
Was his arm out? And it just struck the arm on a hinge? Was it in front of him? You did the reconstruction?
It looked,
Here's exactly how his body was positioned when he was struck by that.
so it looks like his arm was more kind of like this. If I can try to get that.
You're indicating out by his side, correct?
Yes.
All right. And the taillight would have struck his arm, right?
Yes.
Not his torso.
Yes.
Okay. So the full mass, the full weight of that truck hit him basically at the elbow. Is that right?
No.
Missing his
No.
torso.
But I said it from upper part of the arm
Right.
down.
At
Yeah.
the elbow and the biceps.
I didn't see anything that shows an indication that this lower torso was struck, but
Okay. So his torso,
it's not saying it could not have been a possibility, but I just didn't see anything.
so his torso was spared from being hit, but the arm took the brunt,
Yeah.
the full force of the vehicle, correct?
Like arm and shoulder, yes.
Okay. And you said he then did a spin, like a sort of a pirouette.
How would he lose his life on that? Like, he might lose his arm or have some serious damage to his arm, but he himself, going at a slow rate of speed, he would not have lost his life from those injuries if this is real, but we all know it's not. But if she had hit him in this manner, he wouldn't have died. He would have lived, most likely with an injury to his arm. And that's about it. I mean, if it happened the way that he's saying, where it hit him on the bicep and shattered and scratched him. We've looked at the pictures before, the autopsy photos of John's arm. I'm not going to show them right now, but in the next episode, we are going to go through the voir dire of the experts, because Lolly puts this bozo on the stand, and I'm sorry to call him a bozo, but he's not qualified to be an expert. He took a couple classes, and he's not an expert in physics or reconstructing accidents. He has some knowledge in it. I'm not going to diss him on that, but he doesn't have the qualifications that are really needed in this case, especially for such a specific type of motor vehicle collision, because she's going at such a slow rate of speed, and it's supposedly a tail light, so she catches him just on the back of her car on an angle and all this. So you kind of need physics to figure that out, and to let us know how all those 47 pieces of taillight got where they were, and why weren't they diagrammed. I mean, there's just so many issues with his testimony. And like I was saying, he gets to go on the stand and be an expert with no questions asked, but yet when Karen's defense team has experts that they want to put on to go against this guy, that they're actually FBI hired guns that figured out in the first place that the car didn't hit John and John didn't get hit by the car. They're the ones that can definitively say that because they did the actual research and reconstruction and they knew the right formulas to use and they knew the rate of acceleration or whatever, whatever the questions were. They know these guys are experts, and we're going to see the difference when we go look at the voir dire and you're asked of what their experience is versus this guy, and you're going to be like, I can't even believe it. It's so insulting that they had to come in and prove that they are experts in their fields, while this guy gets to go on the stand, no questions asked, and pretend to be an expert in accident reconstruction. Ugh, makes me angry. All right, oh, we've got a couple more minutes to go in this.
He got spun around possibly the way he got struck. It looked like he could have gone turned around counterclockwise.
Okay. So if he turns around counterclockwise, is he turning around in the air counterclockwise?
Yes,
Okay.
initially.
So he gets hit on the upper biceps, shoulder area, and down to the forearm, right?
Yes.
By an unbroken taillight, right?
Yes.
In other words, it's nice and smooth. Nothing, no shards of plastic or anything broken at the time that it made contact with his arm, right?
Correct.
Okay. So how did his arm get all cut up?
Because when his arm struck the taillight then cracked, and as the car is driving past him, the taillight could scratch it.
Got it. So he gets hit by the car, not his torso, just the arm. The taillight cracks, and as it passes by, his arm stays with it long enough to get striations, those scratches that you see, those lacerations. I'm sorry, those abrasions that you see, right?
In a sense, yes.
And at the same time, he does a pirouette and flies 30 feet to his final point of rest.
I don't know if he did a pirouette
or something.
I'm using the word pirouette. He spun around.
He started rotating counterclockwise. I don't know how far he ran counterclockwise, but he started rotating. According to that, would push him to rotate counterclockwise. Whether he went counterclockwise all the way to his back toward the ground, it seems like a most likely possibility.
Did you account for the fact that his arm is on a hinge?
Is what? Say again?
Did you account for the fact in this scenario that you just told the jurors that his arm is on a hinge?
On a
It's called
hinge.
Shoulder,
Okay.
right? So the arm got hit. Didn't his arm just swing?
I said arm and shoulder area, so his arm could have been considered part of it.
Even if his shoulder got the upper,
Okay.
pointing to his upper biceps.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's no injuries on his shoulder. Not a single one. Not even a bruise. Right?
Like I said, it looked like to me it was from up here. I don't know how far I can up back here, but it was up here.
Well,
So
you're the one that talked about his injuries on his arm.
yes.
That's limited to about mid biceps, about mid forearm, correct?
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
No injuries on the shoulder, no injuries on the torso, no injuries on the ribs, no injuries on the back, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
So your theory is you got hit on the arm, took the brunt of the force from the taillight on the arm, stayed with the vehicle long enough for the taillight to explode, basically, to shatter. Then these striations get on his arm, abrasions. Does a pirouette, a spin, counterclockwise. He flies 30 feet in the air to his point of rest.
Yeah, it happened probably a little faster than that, though.
That's his theory.
I thought you said he hit his head on the curb.
Yeah, he did say that in his testimony that John hit his head on the curb.
I said that's one of the possibilities of when you look at the roadway as he gets spun around counterclockwise. It's a possibility that the curb is there, any blunt force object on the ground, as the ground is pretty blunt.
Well, except in your scenario that you just told us, he flew through the air onto the light dusting of snow, grass, and dirt.
I didn't say through the air.
Say that again?
I didn't say he got thrown through the air.
Okay, I'll use your word. He got projected.
Projected doesn't mean it's not incorporating just the throw. Projected just means you get pushed forward. There's two parts of that. Just the air, then there's the ground. Like I said earlier, the tumbling, the rolling, whatever that part of the crash would happen. Projecting is just what we call what happens to a pedestrian post-impact with a crash.
Okay, so a couple questions. If his arm, elbow, took the brunt of that entire impact, how do you account for the fact that he didn't suffer a broken bone?
I don't know.
How do you account for the fact that he didn't have a fracture?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why?
How do you account for the fact that he didn't even have a bruise on the arm?
Objection.
That's sustained too.
Your
That's
approach.
Yes.
stupid, Bev. Those are dumb objection or dumb sustains. Those are good questions, and we should know the answers to those. So they go up for a sidebar.
You know, having investigated auto pedestrian accidents in the past, that John O'Keefe's injuries do not look anything like an automobile pedestrian accident, do they?
Yes, they do.
Isn't it true, Trooper Paul? You came to these opinions and conclusions because Trooper Proctor told you to come to these opinions and conclusions in furtherance of his investigation.
That is not true.
That's why you have these opinions and conclusions that just don't make sense, correct?
That is not true.
And you're just trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Action.
Sustained. All right, jurors will take the morning recess.
All right, so that's going to be all for him. Lolly does come back and do a redirect, but it really doesn't save much. As you can see, it was pretty bad for Trooper Paul on the stand. He had a lot of inconsistencies and some serious questionable questionable uh, questionable skills and knowledge in his field. I'll say that. I'm not saying that he's not knowledgeable, but for this type of accident reconstruction, he's just not the guy. Sorry, Paul or Trooper Paul. So that is the end of our court rewatching. I have a couple surprises for you. So I wanted to share this video. This is from Aussie Insider. And this is what I'm not going to say a scientific. This isn't scientific by any means, but this is
tick, tick, boom. Boys. Oh, baby, we bringing the toys. Boys.
loud. Hold on. I'm trying to talk and it won't pause. This is not a particularly scientific recreation. However, it is the best reconstruction we have because it's actually done on Fairview Road. They measured it out. He's using a Lexus also in reverse, and we're gonna see what happens. And so this was a Turtle Boy video, and Aussie Insider like mixed it up and stuff. So so it is what it is today.
Tick, tick, boom. Boys. Oh, baby, we bringing the toys. Boys. Chop up the singing should be on the voice. Bang, bang, we gon' ride out. Gang, gang, we gon' die out. Want it like this, ain't no timeouts. Tell me who really gon' find out. We be disturbing the peace. Working, we serving the streets.
Karen Reed has supporters who've shown up in large numbers.
Tick, tick, boom.
Hard body, and not scaring nobody. You make me resort to wild, you must be blind by the diamonds hiding. Want it to be this way.
So this was his first test, and remember I said the road is curved. Look at this. He went up on the curb because the road curves. So there's that. It would have been pretty difficult to do this on a wet, slippery, dark, snowy road backwards with the curve. Just saying.
But y'all won't need to try this, always no way around it. You the loudest one, it's all quiet. We be disturbing the peace. Working, we serving the streets. About to go ahead, going beast. Bang, bang, leave you sleep.
This is the first time I think I've ever seen this. An outpouring of support for someone accused of murdering a Boston police officer. Unbelievable situation. Never seen anything like it.
Tick, tick, boom.
You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me?
We be disturbing the peace. Working, we serving the streets. About to go ahead, going beast. Bang, bang, leave you sleep. It's go, 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 go time.
Tick, tick, boom.
couldn't imagine having a person there and doing that. Like, that's fucking, like, it can't be manslaughter. Like, if she did that on purpose, which she didn't, obviously, because she's not, you have to be a fucking psycho.
Right.
That's all the time I'm thinking of, like, you gotta be fucking psycho to do something like that.
For sure.
So, no fucking way.
No turtles were hurt during the making of this demonstration. I think that's funny. And that was great by Aussie Insider. Great job putting that together. Great job to Turtle Boy for actually recreating it and making us see that the Commonwealth's theory is just ridiculous. And finally, I got a little treat for you. I'm going to share this trigger warning if you don't like offensive language, because this is a remix of Alan Jackson basically swearing back at Colin Albert on the stand his own words in his texts and or in his voice messages to people where he's trying to like start fights with others. Alan Jackson uses his own words against him on the stand, and somebody put it into a remix of a song, and this song is called Bang Bang. It's hilarious. And you know what? Hold on. Let me put it on.
I'll call this Bang Bang. Seriously? I will fuck you up.
Let me put it on normal speed. Whoops. Normal speed for you guys so you can enjoy it. I also really like Turtle Boy's intro song. I hope I don't get struck or whatever for playing these. This is a Turtle Boy. This is on Turtle Boy's website, and it's called Alan Jackson Bang Bang.
I'll call this Bang Bang. Seriously? I will fuck you up. I will beat your ass. I will fuck you up. Pull up, bitch. I will fuck you up. I will beat your ass. I will fuck you up.
Objection. Objection.
I will fuck you up. KO. Bang bang. I will fuck you up. You're a bitch, bro. I will fuck you up. I will beat your ass. I will fuck you up. Right?
Yeah.
The bang bang, the bang bang, pull up. The bang bang, the bang bang, pull up.
I think it's hilarious.
Right?
Yeah.
The bang bang, the bang bang, pull up. The bang bang, the bang bang.
Some of these pictures are hilarious.
All right, Mr. Lally, your next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor, the Commonwealth will call Trooper Michael Proctor to the stand. State your name and spell your last name for the jury.
Michael Proctor, Proctor.
You're a bitch, bro. I will fuck you up. I will beat your ass. I will fuck you up.
I'm going to allow it.
My favorite part.
I will fuck you up. I will beat your ass. I will fuck you up.
I'm going to allow it.
Like a badass. Coming out of the courthouse. All right. And that was Bang Bang. And that was beautiful. I thought that was great. All right. So that leaves, this is where I leave you guys. This was fun. This was great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed very much going back over this guy's testimony, Trooper Joseph Paul, the Reconstructionist expert for the Commonwealth. I, I, I mean, I can't even. There's no words to describe what we just watched. He's obviously not experienced and not qualified for the role of reconstructing an accident of this magnitude. So, or of any, I don't know. I don't know exactly what he can do, but I know that on the stand, he was not a good witness for the Commonwealth and clearly not knowledgeable in the things that he needs in order to make an expert opinion in how those injuries occurred on John O'Keefe's arms and what happened to the car and how those damages occurred. Was it someone prying off a taillight, perhaps? Some of those scratches. Maybe there's marks from a tool, somebody trying to like pry it off, trying to get it out. I don't know. Those would all be things that would be interesting to know, but I don't think they ever investigated it enough because, as we saw very clearly and blatantly, he lied on the stand saying, I was told, and then he changed his answer to the crime scene told me when Alan Jackson was like, who told you? Well, the crime scene. Crime scene talks to me. That's what we can take away from this. The crime scene talks to Trooper Paul. He just knows, and things just happen. And he doesn't need physics. Physics isn't going to help him figure out how a human landed where he did versus where the car was. Anyways, what do you guys think of Trooper Paul? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about the Commonwealth putting him up as an expert? Do you consider Trooper Paul an expert? Do you think he should not quit his day job as trooper? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so, so much for watching. I hope to see you guys soon. Can't get to the right screen. All right, sorry. Thank you guys, and I'll see you later. Bye now. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.